Sup Shredders, my name is Logan, aka Spiderhands, and welcome to an SP Reacts, where today we have ourselves a track from an act named Trinity Armiger, if I'm not mistaken, titled Resilience. It's the own story. If we switch over to here, we have ourselves an AI cover, we have the track on the screen, and I think this is a lyric video if I'm not mistaken, or at least has lyrics featured, and we're going to listen through it from start till finish, and we're going to hear what we think. Let's go, let's do it. Just a heads up before you dive in, this video contains lyrics that touch on the sensitive topic of suicide attempts. If you're finding yourself in a difficult place or this kind of content might be triggering for you, please know that support is available. You can reach out to a crisis hotline or mental health professional, take care of yourself, and feel free to skip this if it's not right for you right now. Fair?
Felt the world go quiet years ago. A monochrome decay. Walked through vibrant streets, saw only shades of gray. Tried to shake the silence hammering behind my eyes. Chase the edge, the thrill, beneath indifferent skies.
Nice resonance there, the way things spread around the stereo field.
Strapped myself to gravity, jumped out of the blue. Felt the sudden plummet, thought that might see me through. Lived inside the discipline, the drill, the fight, the fear. A soldier in a uniform, but still felt nowhere near. Packed a bag 1,000 times, chased the sun down west. Vast ocean cities.
I like the development of those little plucks on the side.
Strangers, different tongues, speaking all around, but the echo in the hollow felt the same on foreign ground. Got tired of the searching, the fake smiles, the endless ache. Found a quiet corner. For goodness gracious sake, made my final preparations. Tied the knot up high, then a hand reached out. A sudden shock, someone cut the string nearby.
And back to the motif.
Looked at the stats screen, broken character sheet. Quest failed, HP critical, can't stand on my own 2 feet. Inventory empty, skills all great and shut down. Loading screen stuck, buffering, wearing just a hollow crown. Thought about the player staring blankly at the screen. Whispered to the monitor, I don't want to play with this character anymore.
I mean, it's a fantastic bass response to those kicks. Hits you like a train.
Found a pen, a dusty page. Poured the poison from my heart, released the bottle rage. Found the rhythm in the sorrow, a melody in tears. A fragile little comfort after all these empty years. But the whispers still are coming, sharp and cold and low. Dig down deep, they're telling me, let the darkness flow. They want to see the stumble, the beautiful collapse. Pushing on the full lines, watching for the gaps. Feet upon the broken, the wall, the bleeding heart. Just to feel a little something, tear my worlds apart.
It's amazing how they can kind of get it, how you can kind of rise like that. Even a small step towards support can make a big difference. If this video resonated with you, consider reaching out to your local depression support centers. It can be a gentle way to start feeling better, and they're ready to listen. Well, I feel this comes from a good place, and I feel as if it's well implemented, but we're going to talk about it more in the conclusion. Because welcome to the conclusion of my review of this track from an act named Trinity Armiger titled Resilience. Now, I think this, what do we think this track is about? I think this track is about someone who is going through tough times with depression, and they're struggling to really cope with the situation they're in, what to put their points into with their stats, etc. And they eventually, I think, find a way to write about it. And maybe this is a direct sort of like a connection to the actual person who's written the lyrics for the song. And I think that that can be a really good use for this kind of technology. If you're able to create stories and kind of sketch out ideas from that and do interesting things, you know, I do like it when it's used like that. I feel like if you can put your heart on the paper and tell a story that is meaningful, it's effective. So ultimately, it's cool to hear the story. I'm sorry to hear that that's what they've been through. I'm sure there'll be people that can relate to the story that's been told there. And I'm glad that they found a healthy outlet in order to be able to cope with the struggles that they were dealing with. I think one of the things that was done well within this track were the vocal melodies. I feel like having them not completely constantly through the track, allowing there to be instrumental breaks, was good, but also to have subtle changes in the range and the expression of it was good. I think kind of having it rise near the end there to go into the upper register was kind of neat. It allowed us to have a bit more kind of like, it just sounded a bit more vibrant. It was just a nice bit of sort of cosmetic compositional diversity at that point, you know, a bit of a fresh air, you know. And I think that the way it was sung does match with the subject matter, and I think it works well with the motif that we've got in the background. I also just want to mention at the end of this vocal section there that it's tricky for me as a reviewer to really review the performance of it. So if it seems like the section is a little bit brief, it's just because there's not a lot I can really comment on beyond the way it sounds, the way the notes were chosen. As long as like the words come through clearly and things aren't too quirky sounding or kind of too sort of disparate, you've usually got yourself a sort of like a good balance there. I think in addition to the vocal performance and the quality of the note choice and how the expression did match the motif in respects, it was also the actual instrumental components themselves are pretty good. You have these like gentle keys there resonating with the root notes, and these little plucks on the other side there dangling arpeggios about. And there's a bit of tension and drama to the triads that were chosen there that makes sense with the subject matter. Those minors and like diminished and stuff like that. I think having a bit of sub-bass resonance as we go through just built it up there. And the drums had a really interesting tone to them. I wasn't necessarily a massive fan of the snare sound. It just sounded a bit too kind of fizzy to me. But then the kicks came in, they thudded in the mix and had a lot of power to them, especially after that kind of like drop near the end. And like there was some nice sort of like more atmospheric synths in the chorus sections to allow a bit more sort of intensity and color in the mid-range. Maybe to sort of like be a foil for what was the absence of the vocals at that point. The use of cymbals with subtle hi-hat grooves in the eighths resonated with 16 syncopated offbeats and other instruments, and overall I feel like things were reasonably well structured. I think once we were comfortable with the development of things within the instrumental layers, we got to a point where we had like a repetition of certain parts of it, and it was enough with the variation of the vocals as well as subtle changes instrumentally with certain mid and top layers to be able to keep things going through. There was a heaviness to a lot of the bass responses, as I mentioned before, that kind of sounded like it was weighing down, kind of like the person was weighed down, and when the person's voice rose, it kind of sounded like they were coming out of it, so there was an interesting symbolism there. And I think my final comment would simply be the way that it was produced. Now, this being an AI cover, I imagine that a lot of it would have been done by the software that was doing it. It would have sort of auto-leveled and been able to sort of like judge how loud things needed to be. But there were moments again with some of those kicks in the late stages where they thudded in the mix and they just had a fantastic body to them. And even though I wasn't necessarily a fan of all the textures, again, such as the snares in some parts and stuff like that, I think that the sounds that were chosen reflected the mood and style of the music with kind of moody, like lo-fi, kind of low-key, halftime kind of like escapades there. And I think that if this track had been normal time or double time, or if it had been heavier than it was, or even brighter than it was, it would have been just a little bit sort of like deficient. But there was dynamic range, things weren't the same loudness all the time, so it was reasonably sort of like Not lively, but there was variety there, you know. And it was nice and loud without pumping, so the bus compression limiting was handled. I mean, a lot of stuff was done well here. I think it's an interesting track, and I like the purpose of it. I think that the message that we're trying to go for here is authentic, and it seems like the person who wrote the lyrics really kind of like wants to put that on paper and sort of tell the world about it. I think it's for a good cause, so I support that. But thank you, for watching my review of this track from Trinity Armiger titled Resilience, their own story, an AI cover, and hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please do go show them some love via their various social medias and their YouTube page, and stay cool and stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as they need the help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world. And I'll catch you in the next SP Reacts. Spiderhands out.